Well, we're going into the track. It's a cold Sunday. How cold do we got? 39. So what, about 4 degrees? Not even 3 degrees. Chilly morning today, but we got a lot of stuff going on this week. And Amy had pointed out maybe we should jog a couple of horses. I'm planning on jogging Captain Incredible. Who'd you say you had to jog? Maureen who? Perfection. Yeah. Maybe Blue Rare. So there's a couple of horses had a couple of days off. We don't want to give them 3 or 4 days in the stall. And I think you had noticed, and we'll talk about this in a minute. It's important because the way the races played out last night, a couple of horses were flat. One was super flat. The good news is that that's the exact same position that Freedom Hill was in last week. She raced very flat. I know it was her first start back and everybody gave her a wide berth, but she did feel a little lethargic. She did not feel like she had much pop. And last night she got beat fair and square, but I think coming off the virus, well, I'll just jump right into it. I'll start with her and then backtrack to Trosa. With the filly last night coming off the car, I'm looking left. Ronnie's horse looks like he's trying to make a break anyway. And I don't want to get away 5th or 6th with Freedom Hill with all the favorites near the front end, right? Worst case scenario, you're following bad cover and you're 3 wide early. Best case scenario, I guess, in that respect, is your first over, which is still bad. So I opted to push forward with her. She did feel good coming off the car. Felt like she had a little more pop to her. Last week, you could tell from start to finish, she was on idle. And last night, she felt good. I cleared off the lead kind of quick, and I really didn't care if Chris came back around. I think he was waiting for Ronnie and or I to be coming, and then he saw that Ronnie made a break and opted to let me go. And I wasn't upset about it. I knew that I was gonna get taxed a little bit at the quarter, but I was gonna get a big breather, and I did. And when I put her in gear down the backstretch, just to make sure that I wasn't gonna get bushwhacked by the horse first over, she felt really good. Around the last turn, if you'd asked me, I thought that she probably had enough in the tank to get there. And she raced very, very good. She just got picked off, and it was cold last night. I'm glad that I didn't just have that light spring and fall suit. I would have been quite cold last night. I had my full-on winter suit on and winter gloves for the first three races. And then as I heated up a little bit, I put my fall gloves on, but it was cold last night. So 1:59 for Freedom Hill. Honestly, I thought she was much better than she was last week, and I think she's going to improve from there. What I liked most about her last night was she was quiet. Last week we wore a chain on her and an ear hood, and she was still a little grabby, a little bully. Last night went back to a cord. You can see, and quite frankly, you can almost take that off her for next week. She was very polite and did everything very, very well. So I'm happy with the steps made forward from Freedom Hill last night. Now we'll go back to Trosa. Raced tremendous. I had told Daniel when they first excluded him from that Numbers 2 because he was a 6-year-old, I was mad. I was a little frustrated, even though that's always been the way. It's not like they put that stipulation on the condition sheet for us. It's been there since forever. And quite frankly, I didn't know he was 6. I thought he was 5, and it was a little bit of, I guess.
Well, he was 5 when he got here.
Yeah, but nevertheless, I guess I was is at least a little bit angry at myself for not realizing he was 6. But I'm glad that he found that class. Now, James's horse is a killer that's in there. That JK horse of Anthony Hahn's and Meg's is a killer. And Trosa, it looked for a second like he was going to get to him. And then James, if you look at James's body language, he was just motionless in the bike. But that horse isn't long for that class. And I think it's a good spot for Trosa. And more importantly, he's a big horse, and it's allowing him to reach his potential. He arrived from Australia because he was bleeding in Australia, and there's no Lasix over there. So he never got to an opportunity where you could work him and race him to his full potential. And now you're starting to see that with Trosa. You're starting to see him get a little bit better every week. And as I said to Daniel, give him another 10 starts. We're not talking a week or two. He's going to need 10 starts for that big, giant body to start packing the muscle on he needs. And at that point, then we'll see what Trosa is. But impressed. I've been impressed with this horse the last 2 weeks. And that right there was virtually the entire night. The other 4 horses were variations of weak or poor. We'll go through them. Neptune wasn't great. No, James said that foot still hurt. No, Trosa was second.
Sorry, I thought Neptune was also second.
Not unless I watched the wrong Neptune.
I must have watched the wrong.
Rosa and Alexandra, she's just not good right now. She looks a little light. And that isn't an admonishment on anybody. I'm not saying she looks light because she just looks a little light. By light, I mean a little thinner. She doesn't have that muscle on. I see a lot of horses that are a little stressed out like that, right? And she went through that transition where they were trying to get her up to speed. She was getting at her knee, and it is stressful for a horse like her. She was not at her knee last night. Harry had her shod good. She was barely picking at her knee last night. But that engine, right, that hind end just looks a little light. And I said to Jason, maybe we'll have to go a little aggressive with some EPM meds this week, maybe some marquee. Work on her stomach. And this is just him and I talking after the race. He said, I think we should work on her stomach, work on EPM. And I said, besides that, because, and this is important too, a lot of people ask me why we gallop horses, in particular horses that interfere. You're never going to see a horse hit a knee running across a field, right? It's on the pace or on the trot that you'll see them interfere. On the gallop, they don't. And that's why galloping a lot of these horses, their stress level's low because they know they're not going to hit themselves, and you can get a good, strong workout into them where they can start to build up that hind end. So I think what we need to do, I'm almost debating, and I think this is where Jason and I kind of left the conversation off last night, was I'm almost debating maybe just to skip next week with her, work on her stomach, work on her what I believe is maybe a problem attributed to EPM. Just minor, nothing major, but then really work her on the gallop. And I think if we can do that for the next week or two, I think you're going to see improvements, because I already know that she is good enough to do good. I didn't feel her attitude was poor last night. I just felt that her engine was. She didn't have enough in the tank to do what we need her to do. Now, it's a long way from any sort of stake situation from what I saw last night, but it's not that far a jump from her being able to do well. What is this guy doing? This guy's literally just looking to get himself killed. What kind of a maneuver was that?
What, the truck or him?
No, the truck just was surprised. This guy was in the straight lane, well after a green light, as the traffic's moving, and he's trying to turn right to get in the turn lane to turn right there. He stopped in the straight lane, stopped, and a dually truck almost turned his Sunday into a bad day. It's a really dumb maneuver. Anyway,
I don't think you should be critiquing anyone's driving.
Listen, I'm never going to be a driving instructor. I'm aware of that. But I would never do that. That right there.
Now he's going left.
Yeah, he was going to go right. Now he's going to go. Anyway. So Rosa and Alexandra, I think all that she needs is just a little work and a little help. And I think that the two things that we recognized. Working on her stomach. Now, they say she's eating great. Well, if she's eating great, fine, we can pack weight on her, no problem. She's not thin. I'm not saying she's thin. I just think a little more weight, we can turn that into a little more muscle and get her looking like a steak filly. And I just think that she's just at the start of doing that. And had she stayed in Ontario, she may be on the same path. But I think recognizing what we need to do with her is important. So I think I'll talk to Jason a little bit more, and we'll keep an eye on her this week. They draw, I believe, on Wednesday, maybe Tuesday, I'm not sure. But we'll take the next few days for sure to discuss this a little bit more. I would not be shocked, if I were you, to see her not entered for next week. I think we really just need to work on Rosa and Alexandra. For my partners out there, I know it was a pitiful-looking race last night, and quite frankly, a component of that was me. I put her in a position to be exposed, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have protected her a little more, dropped her in the 4-hole around the first turn rather than looking for the front. I just thought, you know what, she's not going to get beat in here. I don't know how pretty it's going to look or ugly it's going to look, but she's going to win. And I just put her in a dumb position. I didn't need to do that. But in doing so, I think we formulated a plan forward for Rosa and Alexandra. Now, the next one, Neptune, foot separation still hurting him. You can see he get twisted around in the straightaways. James said he actually raced okay, but did get twisted around a little bit in the straightaways. Got to keep working on that foot. But I'm sure I know Harry's on top of that. And then the next one, though, is Fire and Shine. Now, I want to take her blood on Monday. Speck of blood found last week. We put her on Lasix. We changed her shoes, we let her hobbles out, and she was as bad or worse than she's ever been in her entire life. That was a pitiful mile last night. And even for her, and this is the problem, and I told you guys this 2 weeks ago, when you have horses that are okay, that are not on the top of their game, they look dreadful. They have to be at 105% all the time, or they don't look very good at all. And I think this is what we're looking at. Especially after watching Gorgeous Package race, sitting behind her. I trained her faster last week than most of those fillies have gone all year. And for her to hang on a line, get up on the head pole a little bit, and just be kind of ineffective from back there. Now, she's not used to sitting last, so did she kind of lose interest throughout the mile too? Maybe, possibly. But when I look at Fire and Shine's mile, and then I go back and rewind a week and look at Freedom Hill, well, I think it goes without saying that there is a little bit of a virus running through the barn. Now, the good news is there isn't a component of massive amounts of mucus or coughing. This just seems to be temperatures, a little bit of swelling in the back legs for some of the horses, and then flatness when you train them or when you race them. Now, Gorgeous Package trained fantastic a week ago and raced not like Gorgeous Package last night. So I'm going to draw the blood on both Gorgeous Package and Fire and Shine Monday. Dr. Tessa's crew is going to draw it, and then we're going to have a quick look at it just to see what's going on. One, when you look at Freedom Hill week to week, you know that they can bounce back from this quickly. And two, we did draw blood on Freedom Hill last week too, so I want to compare that to the blood work on Fire and Shine and on Gorgeous Package, and quite frankly, now that I say it out loud, likely we should draw blood on Trosa and Alexandra also. So that's what went on last night. Disappointed with Fire and Shine's race, but we'll see if that's attributed to some sort of sickness. I thought the two standouts of the evening for sure was one on each side of the border. Trosa was fantastic, and Freedom Hill, although she was beaten, and I know a lot of people say, well, 59, trust me when I tell you, it was a cold night, and she's coming back from the virus last week. I was thoroughly pleased with her mile last night, but that is as far as my pleasure went. I can tell you that. Rosa and Alexandra, we have a plan to work on with her. We'll see if that deviates after we get her blood work done. Neptune just going to continue to work on his feet, and I'm sure he'll be fine. Fire and Shine, I'm intrigued to see what this blood work says, because if it comes back and it's not bad, well, at that point, it's a different conversation. And Gorgeous Package for sure was a little flat, whether it was attributed to the trip she got, the night itself, a number of components, or just maybe a little touch of the virus. We'll find out on Monday afternoon. So that was Sunday. That was Saturday. Tonight is Sunday. I have a bunch of drives. Oh, this guy's looking for my license. New guy. Here you go, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. I got a bunch of drives tonight, but our only stable horses are Patrick the Piranha and Arson. They're both racing tonight. And hopefully we can put a devastating week behind us and start slowly getting everything back to normal. So, as you know, if they're already listed now, I don't know. The videos, there's only one video for this week. My email should explain that. But it was nice to talk about the horses racing last night, tonight, and again, tried to get back to normal here at the barn. So, with that, I hope you guys did have a better week. I hope you have a great Sunday, great rest of your weekend. I will talk to you all soon.